Hi, my name is Paige Land, and I used a set of crutches for my in-home ambulation device. To comment on a couple challenges that I had very much so difficulty getting into my apartment. I think that was one of the main challenges that I faced, other than a couple other activities of daily living. Trying to ascend the stairs in my apartment, it took me about 15 minutes just to ascend them, and to get into my apartment it took probably another 5, trying to keep the door open and just maneuvering in, closing it behind me. The steps at my apartment are a little bit steeper than most stairways, I believe. So trying to make sure I'm not falling backwards or falling forwards was really difficult. And also having a backpack on and trying to get all your stuff with you into the apartment made it a little bit more difficult as well. Also, with ascending the steps, I noticed that I was really fatigued after I ascended the steps, so I stopped for a second. So I added that into my time as well, just trying to catch my breath and to make sure that I'm not falling over, a little bit tired or exhausted just from the ascending about 20 steps. So I noticed that right off the bat, just how complicated it is to ascend steps with crutches. The next morning after using the crutches, I felt really achy and had a lot of pain in my chest, just from, I think, me not using the crutches correctly. So I think that'll be a big thing for a patient that I'm treating, to make sure I explain to them how to use the crutches, that you're pushing your weight into your wrist and in your hands and you're not shoving it in your armpit. I think that was a big flaw that I discovered in my own self, is not even using them correctly. So I want to make sure with the patient that I tell them the right way to use them so that it decreases that fatigue for them. The next morning after using them, I used them to make breakfast. I made just a kind of a quick breakfast because I knew that I needed extra time to get down the stairs and get to the car to get to school. So I ended up making cereal. Some of the challenges with that was trying to bend down into the refrigerator to get the gallon of milk out. Having to use one foot to bend down and having crutches in your arms at the same time made it really difficult. To comment on the getting the bowl and cereal box down and not being able to use weight again was very difficult. Only having one foot to push and try to reach into the cabinet to grab a bowl was really challenging. When I left the apartment, I had to descend the stairs again and get to my car, and that took about, I want to say, 20 to 25 minutes just to get down the stairs and take a minute to catch my breath, just because I was already really tired from getting down the steps. And then getting into the car is also really difficult. You have to sit first and then bring your legs in and then bring the crutches in, and that's already a really tight space to try to bring a set of crutches in after you've sat down. So I think I think there's a better way to do that, maybe even putting the crutches in first and then using your door to apply weight to get your leg in, especially the non-weight bearing one. That would make it a little bit easier for a patient, especially if they are traveling on their own. When I got to school, I used them to go to the bathroom, and the handicap stall was closed, so I ended up having to go to a normal stall, and it is really difficult to maneuver in a really tight space. Trying to turn in the stall and then to sit on the toilet was also just really difficult, because you're trying to turn and you're already really close to the two stalls that are next to you, so it's kind of like just trying to turn and make sure that you're not going to have any challenges there, and also getting out of the bathroom and not just trying to make the most of the space that you have without making it more difficult. Overall, I found that crutches are just really difficult to use, especially if you've never used them before. I think people who have to use them, they really need to make use of time correctly. Especially if someone has a job and they need to get to their job, you really need to leave early, because it takes time to, especially if you don't have an elevator, to get to places. Overall, I really think educating my patient on them is going to benefit them the most.